Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, and thank you so much for being so patient whilst I take the time to enjoy my newborn. I cannot quite believe it, she is 6 weeks old now. The time has absolutely flown by, but I feel like I've taken a good amount of time off of YouTube and creating content and enjoyed that newborn bubble, just getting life into a balance, especially being a mum to a newborn and a 3-year-old. But yeah, I feel like I'm ready now to come back and give you guys some good old newborn content. So over on my Instagram, I did put up a question box asking what kind of content you wanted to see from me, be it routines, day in the lives, questions about how I do things with a newborn, and one of the ones that came up a lot was combi feeding. So I did combi feed my first daughter Isla, and there are some older videos on my channel about that journey, but I'm gonna predominantly stick to my journey with Elodie from 0 to 6 weeks where she is now. I will probably be doing an update further down the line because things will change in terms of how I'm doing my combi feeding, but this is going to be the 0 to 6 weeks combi feeding journey for us. So in terms of combi feeding, I am doing a little bit of everything. I am doing predominantly breastfeeding. I am then doing 2 formula fed feeds at bedtime and in the night, and I'm also doing pumping, which I am predominantly doing to store up my breast milk, but if I am to give a extra bottle throughout the day, it will be my pumped breast milk. So from about 0 to 2 weeks old, I exclusively breastfed Elodie on demand. I really wanted to establish breastfeeding. I wanted to make sure she was feeding really well, just get her latching on fine, making sure that, you know, everything's fine. It does take a few weeks as well for your boobs to like level out. I think by week 4, breastfeeding had become quite, I say easy, but it was good for us. And it does take, you do get to a point with breastfeeding where you need to get past this barrier. Now I do want to say that it's not worth the stress. Like, I put myself through a lot of mental stress last time, and it really wasn't good for me. This time around I was a lot more open to if it happens, it happens, if it doesn't, it doesn't, and I'm just having such a better journey this time. But as I said, I wanted to establish breastfeeding, and 2 weeks is a good amount of time as well. And in that like first couple of week periods, you have a couple of like midwife and health visit appointments where they are weighing your baby, so it's a good indication for you, and it puts your mind at ease when you can see that they're putting on weight, because you don't know how much they're having, you don't know how much milk they're taking from you, and to see that they're growing steadily up their centile line and everything's going well, you put your mind at ease knowing that your breastfeeding is going really, really well, and baby is doing what they need to do, and your boobs are doing what they need to do. On the flip side, if you are struggling and there's a clear indication that baby isn't getting enough, then you can also address that, change your combi feeding plans, or get more support around there. So I think 2 weeks is a good mark. Obviously it depends on how your breastfeeding journey is going. You may need a little bit longer to get your baby to be feeding well, but yeah, I said about the 2 week mark. Now I know there is some advice out there that says don't introduce a bottle before the first 6 weeks because baby gets nipple confusion. I didn't find out with either of my girls. They both have dummies from like the get-go, and they both were taking bottles from the get-go and been absolutely fine. There was no nipple confusion there. But as I said, because I established the breastfeeding, I felt we got to a comfortable point. I feel like, you know, she was able to go between the two. There was no confusion there. But also on the flip side, if you leave it too long, your baby might not take a bottle. So I do feel like you do need to introduce a bottle in those early days. Now, one of the other reasons that I introduced a bottle or formula is because, and now don't come for me people, I know people that may disagree on this, but formula helps babies sleep longer, or my babies at least. Both my babies sleep for really good periods. I mean, Elodie last night, she's 6.5 weeks old, and her longest sleep was 7 hours and 22 minutes last night, so she is sleeping really well. Isla was exactly the same, and I do believe that formula keeps them lasting longer. So in the first, I'd say up to about 5-6 weeks, we're kind of doing a 11 o'clock formula feed, and then in the night feed, and then any other feeds would be a boob feed. She generally would do like take the bottle at 11 and then get up about 1 or 2. And then I would feed her another formula one in the night, and then if she got up at say 5, I would boob feed her, and then 7 o'clock we'd get up properly and do a boob feed. Now she's a bit older, the goalposts have changed in terms of time. She's now doing around a 8 o'clock feed, and then any time between 2 and 4 in the night. And then, as I said again, if she wakes up at 5, she'll have a boob feed at 7, and anything else is going to be a boob feed. So currently at the moment she is on 120 ml. She's not taking it all, and I'm also got her on a reflux formula. She was on a colic and constipation one, but I do feel like she has got a little bit of reflux, which again can hinder some of their feeding, so I put the reflux one on there. Now it is really thick formula, so due to her age, she should be on the size 1 teat that goes up to 2 months old. But because it's such a thick formula, I've already put her on the number 2, which is from 2 months old, because she just needs that extra bit of flow because it's so thick. Like, she couldn't get anything out of there. So do watch that if you are someone that needs to go on a colic or constipation or a reflux, a formula that is thicker. Then just watch your teat size, because that can hinder them taking the milk, and it also can cause them to be really aggy and reject the bottle if they're trying to feed and they're just not getting it out because the hole isn't big enough for them. So you may need to up a teat if you are going down that kind of route. So in terms of formula, I did start on the ready-made bottles to begin with, the 90ml ones that have the sterilised head, because I didn't want to be making up feeds that I was just going to waste or using the bigger ready-made formula bottles. So I was just using 90ml, and she took them fine. She didn't take the whole 90ml, but it was quite good to introduce that. I then went on to putting the tummy tip prep machine in my bedroom to make up a feed in the night, and I was just using the Kendall Organic. I love that one. Used it with Isla, and it's just a general one. But where Elodie was suffering from like colic, I wouldn't say constipation, but she definitely was very windy, I decided that A, I was going to go on to a colic and constipation one, but B, now I know that the tummy tip prep machines are, you know, people love them or hate them. I got on really well with them for Isla, but they do make your formulas very frothy, and especially Kendall milk can be quite a frothy formula. So I decided that I would stop using that for the time being, and it's downstairs now, and I will pick up using that up when she, you know, I guess eventually we'll take more formula bottles if, you know, we go down the same route as Isla. So I started to make them up just with hot water and a rapid cool, which is a new gadget that I've been using this time around. I will go into everything I'm using for my journey. But yeah, so I then changed it up to colic and constipation, and then she's doing a lot better with her wind and her colic, and I now think it's more to do with reflux. So I've then swapped her over to the SMA reflux, and I use SMA generally because I used that in hospital. So that was the first one I used with Isla before going on to Kendall, and it's just they're the two brands I go between, Kendall or SMA. But I feel just pick whatever formula you feel comfortable buying or with. Do they make so much of a difference? Obviously Kendall is quite a good one because they don't add some ingredients, it's all British made and stuff like that, but just, you know, I'm not, just pick what you want in terms of formula. It's there's so many out there. So in terms of pumping, I have no rhyme and reason of how and when I pump. It is quite sporadic. I really do need to set like a solid time to do pumping. I would just kind of like whack my pump on at the end of a feed if it was kind of like a feed where she wasn't taking too much, and just try to increase my flow a bit. But I would say my main time of pumping is in the middle of the night, because it's that time where I was feeding her when I was exclusively breastfeeding her, but now she's having a bottle, but my boobs are still producing that milk for those feeds. And if I didn't, I'd wake up and my boobs would be so engorged and just leaking, and like it gets to the point where you just turn and you can't even move your boobs because they're like brick rocks, and you just go to the side and everything hurts. So I have to pump in the middle of the night, and what I try to do is, because I don't want my boobs continuously producing that milk in the middle of the night, I'm doing a pump, but I'm not doing like a full pump. So I'm getting the milk out that I need to be comfortable, but I'm not over pumping to tell my body to produce that milk. Now I would say get a double pump if you want to do it quick and easy, do both boobs in one go, or you can get a single pump if you feel like, you know, your baby, if for example, will really only comfortably feed off one side of your boob. They don't like going to the other side, because you will find that sometimes they do have a preference. So you may want to pump one side and do another, so a single pump might be good. I would say that pumping can add a level of added stress, especially down the line when your boobs just don't produce milk for a pump like they did for a baby, and then you stress out thinking your baby's not getting enough because you can't get it out the pump, but it's just your boobs being like, well, no, this isn't a baby, I'm not producing the same milk I would for this foreign object. But if you do want to, and you say you're a first time mum or it's a first time breastfeeding, I wouldn't say rush out and get a pump before baby's here. See how your breastfeeding goes in those first couple of weeks. If it goes really well, then invest in the pump. Or you may decide that you just want to be an exclusive pumper. Therefore, you'll be buying all the gadgets and stuff like that to really help with your pumping journey. So talking over, let's just go through all the stuff I'm using. I will talk you through like a day of how and when I'm feeding, and just everything I'm using in terms of breastfeeding, pumping and bottle feeding.